The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now your host, Nicole Hutchison.
Everybody, happy Victory Friday. Welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Jess Navarez, Aisha Morris, and Christy Scales here in the SWPBC podcast studio. My goodness, a little rusty with this hosting.
It's okay.
It's been a minute. Nicole is out today. She will be back next week. So in the meantime, you guys get to deal with the puns on puns on puns. I have to make Nicole proud while she's gone. So don't you worry. I wrote some down. I will not let up today. I will make her proud with that. Ladies, Cowboys are now 2-2 of the season as they defeat the G-Men 20-15. Did we all go back and check our final score predictions? How close were we? How close were we not?
I think I had it 28-20. Is that right? Something like that?
Yeah. Nicole's the one that
right in there.
down.
Yeah. So I was a little bit over in my prediction in terms of points scored, but it was fairly close to the ratio of the win.
Do you remember yours?
I think it was like,
We were almost identical.
I don't know, I think it was like 23, 27, something like that. So, no, I was less than that, actually. I think I
You had
put
a little
the
lower
Giants
scoring.
Yeah, I had the Giants like 20 or something like that, and the Cowboys like 23 or something. It's something
I know I was 20-23.
because they were only averaging.
Wait, I'm the only one that picked Cowboys? That can't be
No,
right.
I
the
picked
Cowboys.
Oh, okay,
Cowboys.
okay.
But
it's
I
the
said
numbers.
20-23. All right, ladies.
Low-scoring game.
Very low-scoring game, but I guess the biggest storylines to come out of this week, those injuries, man, one after another. You hate to see it, and then we'll get into the penalties as well, since that was another big storyline of the game. Christy, I'm going to go to you for this one because the two biggest injuries out of the game, obviously, Demarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. There was some updates from various sources around Twitter that Mike is dealing with a high ankle sprain and that Demarcus Lawrence will be out for a few weeks, TBD on how long, with a foot injury. Christy, on the sideline view for both of those, what did you see?
Well, with Demarcus Lawrence, at first I was hopeful that he might get back in the game because when he came over to the sideline, and it was obvious they were looking at his left foot, and they had removed the sock and the shoe, and they were checking on him, and then took him to the locker room, and it was not long after that he returned to the bench area with his shoe on and was down in the bench area going through movements where you get down in a stance and come up out of the stance. He was testing that foot to see if he could fire off, right, if he could move laterally and everything. And so he did that for a couple of minutes, and then he went to the training table, which is just behind the bench, and they removed the shoe and the sock again and taped it up and put the shoe back on, and then he was standing on the sideline with his helmet, not sitting on the bench, but literally standing on the sideline as if he were ready to go back in, but he never re-entered the game. And then with Micah, he really couldn't put any weight. That was late in the fourth quarter, and he really couldn't put any weight on that left foot ankle as he needed to be helped to the sideline. They took him immediately to the blue medical tent, and then I could see probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, I can see they walkie-talkie and call for the cart to come out from the tunnel. And so when I see the walkie-talkie, I'm thinking, uh-oh, here comes the cart. So he really it's only like 2 steps from the blue medical tent onto the cart, and he wasn't moving real well to get on it. So I thought, uh-oh, this could be at least a few weeks. But, he had a wrap with the ice on it in the locker room after the game. And then I saw him wearing shoes on the team flight home. But, it's a whole different thing when you wake up the next morning and then you go get the MRI. So with a high ankle sprain, that's something that can sideline you, Jess, as you said, at least a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and then I would assume some of the adrenaline goes away and stuff.
Right.
And he's probably feeling that. And also, too, Micah, through his collegiate career and obviously the start of his career with the Cowboys, he's been able to play through quite a bit, but this this clearly wasn't something he could play through. So in regards to Demarcus Lawrence, man, like, listen, I think coming into this season, I was mentioning that I was worried about the DN depth, the pass rush. And so this is disappointing, but specifically with Demarcus Lawrence, he's had quite a few injuries with his feet. And so this kind of being a reoccurring thing with him, I'm sure, is disheartening for him. But it also, too, feet are delicate things when it comes to this game. And I think, like, depending on how severe this is and stuff like that, like, it just doesn't feel good for where he is in his career. And this is his last year on this contract. Yes, Christy?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a lot of feels. So when you mentioned to me him standing on the sideline with his helmet and stuff, like, I just wonder what he was thinking. I wonder what he was feeling and things like that, because this is a pivotal time and towards the, in his career. So, I'm sure we're going to talk about the actual game and everything, but it's for him as a person, I feel for him as a person.
Yeah, and he's the heart and soul of the defense. I know Micah is the superstar, and Trayvon is a huge star as well.
Yeah.
But the heart and soul, the hustle of the defense is Demarcus Lawrence. The dirty work, I'm not saying that the other guys don't do dirty work, because they do, but Demarcus Lawrence consistently, he is the dog of the defense and the unquestioned leader. And I know that Coach McCarthy has team captains on a week-to-week, game-by-game basis, and not for the whole season. But I don't think there's any question that D-Law is the leader of the defense and one of the best leaders on the entire team, not just defense.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, Christy, since you were there, did you think, and again, from my perspective on the broadcast, Aisha, I don't know if you can attest to this as well, obviously, there was some rain in the forecast beforehand. Was that impacting, do you feel, kind of how this game went injury-wise? Because those weren't the only two. I mean, between the flags and the timeouts for injuries, I mean, it was one after another after another. Do you feel like that contributed to it? Because we'll get into tackling later, but overall, how did you feel like those ground conditions were?
It was muggy. I think that the temperature at kickoff was probably like 75 or 76.
It's humid?
But it was humid because it didn't rain in the afternoon, but it had rained earlier in the day. It had rained the day before, so everything was like moist. And then even just everything was, I always use the word cloudy and lousy. It was cloudy outside, very overcast.
That's a good one.
And the air was kind of heavy. But the thing is, at the Meadowlands, whenever we play the Giants or the Jets up there, winds, that's always a factor. It was completely still yesterday, not even a breeze down there, which is good for your special teams because I remember remarking in the pregame, I can't remember a game at the Meadowlands where weather, even just wind, was not going to be a factor in the game because it affects special teams particularly. But it was completely still yesterday, which made it feel even muggier and hotter. So they actually had the cooling fans going on the sideline during the game, I assume on the Giants sideline as well. But we saw that Trayvon Diggs cramped up there in the fourth quarter and ended up going in for an IV. He was back by the next series, so he only missed a few plays. And then Maris Leofau, that was early in the third quarter, just a little bit of cramping up. And he returned later in the same series, so just missed a couple plays. Frankly, I'm surprised that more players didn't have to be treated for dehydration.
So is that because of the humidity or the lack of air? Is it just that
it just
hot?
felt it was still, and then it was muggy, and so you just didn't really have a lot of circulation. And the air just felt heavy because it was so humid.
That makes sense.
And what's interesting is you go back to week 1, and there was a lot of cramping, dehydration issues, to which, I was told it was being addressed at that point by the team to figure out. So it's interesting now you're at 2 road games, and cramping and dehydration has been an issue for both. So I'm not sure if they need to readdress that or everyone needs to drink more water. So a reminder if you're watching, everybody drink more water, please.
Here's a tip. I think I've shared this on the show before, but maybe it was last year. If you're ever on an NFL sideline and you decide you're going to raid the Gatorade cooler and pull out one of the bottles of Gatorade, if it has a piece of white tape on the side of the Gatorade, that means it's spiked with Pedialyte.
Oh.
For extra it's an extra way to get hydrated. So if someone's cramping up or getting dehydrated, you'll see them over there slamming those, right? Because it's got the extra stuff in it. So I made the rookie mistake many years ago of, I'm just going to grab one of the Gators. Like, oh, my goodness, what is in this? And I saw the white tape, and I'm like, now I know what that means.
Well, a little extra there and a little extra on the penalty side of things. Aisha, I'm going to defer to you for this one. 11 penalties for 89 yards. I think I had nightmares of the officiating crew throwing the penalty flags. I'm not going to lie to you. What did you see when you were watching this game? Was it the officiating? Was it the lack of discipline? Is it somewhere in the middle? What did you see from how the Cowboys played? Were all of them warranted? Thoughts?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in the middle as far as how the game was called and some of the calls. This is something we're starting to see specifically with like Thursday night games, like the pacing and everything this is kind of the norm at this point. But I will say, as far as the Cowboys, the pre-snap penalties were things like, these are things they're doing to themselves, jumping off sides and stuff like that. But in regard to some of the holds, I do think that some of this needs to be revisited, because from what I'm noticing is that defensive ends are ripping through, and they're not calling this as a hold anymore. I think it kind of reminds me of in basketball when guys grab the ball and they just rip through to draw the foul.
Right.
It's the same concept in a sense of the refs aren't calling it anymore. And quite honestly, I can't explain it. Like, I feel like that gives advantage to the offense in a way. Like, why wouldn't you call it? But anyway, I just think that I looked at some of the holding calls. Tyler Guyton had 2 huge ones in this game, and you go look at them, and you just like, I mean, and the problem is it's the rip move that's giving him trouble, and that's why he's holding, because his hands. Number one, his hand placement is something we've talked about, something that coming out of the draft people were worried about anyway. But and I also believe he's relying on his recovery a little bit too much. But the penalties in regard to holds right now, it's not consistent with how they're calling it, and I just think I'm sure they're going to go back and look at this game, and because it was so many penalties on both sides. I mean, but yeah, that's what I saw. I thought that some of the officiating was confusing, to say the least. But as far as the Cowboys go, it's hard to not say like this is who they are, when the fact that like penalties are something that have kind of carried with them through this time. It's like, is this just a part of what this team is that they're going to be highly penalized, despite some of them being like, what the heck?
You know what I go back to is I remember Tyler Smith's rookie year. He was the most penalized player on the team as well. So I kind of am interested to dig a little more into the similarities of why these rookie linemen, specifically under the Mike McCarthy era, have so much trouble, not getting those pre-snap penalties. And I remember Tyler's first year when I asked him about it, he said, it's on me. But it's hard to not see a pattern here when you have 2 very young, linemen. At the time, Tyler was a rookie. Now, other Tyler is a rookie too now, dealing with these penalties. But again, he had a handful to be dealing with. And overall, Christy, I mean, you look at those penalties, it was rough. I mean, stopping the game that much, it's something you don't want to see. And usually you're not going to win a game with 11 penalties. So
hey, there were
they got out of that one.
There were more than 11, because there were at least 3 that were offsetting or not accepted, and only 4 on the Giants. There were more, but again, offsetting. Yeah. But yes, it did affect the flow of the game because there was no flow. It was all fits and starts. And I know that we're saying, well, look at these run game numbers, man. They said it was better, but they still need to pick it up. What about like the 9-yard run by Zeke, which gets nullified? I think there was a good one by Rico that was nullified. One by
Deuce too.
Deuce had one outside. So, what you have to look at is not the 11 penalties for 89 yards. You have to look at hidden yardage. So if you have a holding, let's use a Zeke 9-yard run that gets nullified. First of all, you wipe away the 9 yards, right? and you're backed up 10 yards for the holding penalty.
Yeah.
That's 19 hidden yards on that one play. So now let's pretend it was a first down. It's first and 20 instead of that. So with your 19 yards in hidden yardage, and the old football axiom is that 100 hidden yards equals a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So I see 89 yards on the stat sheet, but I'd say it was more like 150 yards, at least in hidden yards, and that's about 9 or 10 points right there. And so, but the other thing was, I don't know that we've ever seen that much laundry on the field, because there were times where two Cowboys, so they had their choice between Beebe and Tyler Smith, and poor Beebe ends up with the penalty instead of Tyler, so it goes against his stat sheet. But oh my gosh! And same thing with the Giants. There were times where there were 2 flags out on the field for something they did. So yes, it was very frustrating, and you can even feel it with the fans. The fans were booing. Just the fact that the officiating crew was so involved in the game. But at the same time, but I would say most of them were warranted, really.
Well, and some were uncalled or called on the wrong opponent, because that should really be 12. When you go back and look at the Demo face mask, that was called not on him, but I mean, you would have added another penalty and 15 yards to your point there. What I wanted to ask you guys, and I'll go to you, Aisha, first, is what does this win mean for the Cowboys? Did you see improvement? Is this, kind of a starting line for more to come? Where are you now? A mini bye week, 2 more weeks until your the real bye week. And you have pretty tough opponents coming up in the Steelers and the Lions. What does this win mean for this team these next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, well, number one, they needed it. They needed to kind of put some pen to paper and be able to see some things actually come to fruition on the field. But you mentioned, this part of the season. Quite honestly, this might be one of your hardest parts, if not the hardest part of your season, as far as the opponents you're going to face. So getting this mini bye, as you mentioned, to get as healthy as possible, but also to going into this time with some things you can kind of say, okay, we did better. And that's kind of what I was looking for in this game. Is I thought the pass blocking was better this game. I thought the run blocking was better this game. Some of the duo combo stuff they were doing was better this game. We saw the defense defend the run better. Just certain things that you kind of been looking for. I thought that there was some tangible information that you could take from the game and say, how do we apply this? How do we apply this to the next game? How do we translate this to the next game? So for me, I think that they could walk away saying, like, okay, there are some things we do well and there's still some things we don't do well. Sounds like that's how it was in the locker room. That was kind of the sentiment, that they weren't saying hoorah, whatever, but they were like, okay, we did some things right, but we need to still do things better. Yes. Yeah,
and I would also say there's relief too. This one brought relief. Yeah. Because I think everyone knew it was. Yeah. And I know that there are some. I won't say haters, but median fans that
call them what they are.
That qualify wins in the NFL by that you have to win with style points, or it's just the Giants. Mm-hmm. A win is a win. It's not win WP. You won pretty, or WU won ugly. It doesn't matter. A win is a win. And did you see the previous 2 weeks?
Train wreck.
Yeah. So it was. I think it was a very important win.
Yeah.
And to your point, Aisha, so much improvement in areas, particularly the run game.
What about you?
Excuse me, run defense. Yes.
Yeah. Look, what I did not want to endure this week for the next 10 days is dealing with talking about a loss to the Giants. Yeah. And not only that, selfishly, but going into that locker room and seeing the deflation that would have created. Because let's call it what it is. Losing 3 weeks in a row would have done something morally, I think, to this team. And so for me, I I'm just glad that they have their starting line. This is not where you want to be because obviously, like you just said, there's a lot that needs to continue to improve. But also, there were some younger guys that had some flashes we'll talk about later that I was like, hell yeah, Mozzie. Yes, like it finally was that confidence growing game that you needed, I think, to just kickstart you for the rest of the season. However, I keep seeing people be like, at what cost did it take to beat the Giants?
The injuries hurt.
The injuries coming out of this game are massive. And yes, you have a longer week and, the bye week's coming up in 2 weeks, but you have two really tough opponents ahead with the Steelers, especially the Lions, who, man, after how that game ended last year, they want vengeance.
They've had it circled.
Yeah. This is something that they're going to keep on their boards to come back from. So to me, it was good enough, but it's not where I want to see this team either, because with everything that we've seen them practice, especially through training camp, they're just still capable of more. But it was a good starting point for me. Mm-hmm. So, all right, ladies, let's take our first break. We're going to talk defense in our next segment. We're going to continue to talk about that Mozzie Smith improvement and a couple more guys there. Stay tuned. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk presented by Jigsaw. We'll be right back.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
The schedule is set and limited tickets for the 2024 Dallas Cowboys season at AT&T Stadium are available now. Don't miss your chance to see your Dallas Cowboys live at AT&T Stadium when they host the NFC East rivals, the Eagles, Giants, and Commanders, plus the Ravens, the Lions, the Texans, and the Bengals, also the Bucks. Visit DallasCowboys.com/tickets or SeatGeek.com, the official primary ticketing partner of the Dallas Cowboys. All right, ladies. We had mentioned a hard schedule still. Yeah, you're good. Still ahead for the Cowboys. And the biggest storylines, obviously, the injuries with Micah and Tank. However, I wanted to dive deeper because there was some defensive improvement and some adjustments I wanted to get into. But overall, first impressions. Oh my goodness, Friday feels very Monday today. First impressions of what you guys saw from the defense, what you liked, what you didn't. Aisha, shoot.
Obviously, the missed tackles are a problem. They've had 29 in the last 2 games, 51 since the Saints, which is just insane. Just need guys to just be stronger in their tackling. But overall, this is kind of why when we were sitting here last week, I was like, it can't just be the DT position. Like, there's no way that it's just the DT position. It's like a mixture of a lot of things, but you do see when you get better DT play how much better the rest of the defense looks. When you get better defensive line play, I thought that the edges set the edge well. I mean, even Carl Lawson in the snaps that he got set the edge well. Chauncey Golston set the edge well. They had a plan for how they played the RPO and things like that. But when you talk about Mozzie Smith, I mean, he took on double teams with power. He split them at times, got penetration to the backfield. He redirected running backs with him being where he needed to be. And I thought about that clip. I don't know if you guys remember seeing, it was a clip of him when y'all were at Camp Here. I know you ladies were present when they were at Camp Here, and him and Zanina. Mm-hmm. That's how you say it?
Yeah, Scanina.
Jeff Scanina was working with...
The one that looks like Kronk.
Yes. Cheese puffs. But he was working with him on the spinach puffs. He was working with him on the...
She said he looks like Kronk, and I can't get over it.
He does look like Kronk.
He laughed when we told him. He said it was funny.
He was working with him, and he was hitting the sled, and you saw him, first of all, it's just...
You could hear it.
Up and yeah, lots of power, but he's like peaking.
Yeah.
And there's numerous plays where you can just see him do that. Like, he's locating the ball carrier and going to make the play. But I thought the linebackers played with their hair on fire as well. And it just, like I said, the defensive line set the tone and made it easier for the rest of the defense to be able to go play ball. And I think the secondary, we had some stuff going on there. But overall, there was improvement in the run game, the flow, the run to the ball, all hats to the ball, everything we kind of talked about. I think that's why we saw them be able to shut down the run and make the Giants really have to pass the ball.
Yeah. Overall, the tackling was better. I know there were some glaring missed tackles, especially
right.
Donovan
better.
Wilson with the one where it should have been a tackle for loss, and Cowboys would have gotten the defensive stand there. So, yes, we can think of several in our mind's eye right now. But overall, to your point, Aisha, it was better flow to the ball and gang tackling and working as a unit. But I'd like to add one thing about Mozzie. Remember, he's been dealing with a sore back. Mm-hmm. And there was one point on the sideline where it was in the second half, and he was laying down in the bench area, getting stretched out. And at first I thought, oh, man, that back must be, tightening up or seizing on him or spasming or something. And then I did watch the television or the Amazon broadcast when I got home this morning, and off the charter. But it might have been a play when I think it was Micah came across the top, and it looked like maybe he kind of speared him a little bit in the back.
The stinger.
Yeah, Micah got the stinger, but Mozzie was the recipient.
Yes.
He was on the ground, and Micah kind of landed on top of him. So it may have been from that play. But the point of all that is that Mozzie played through a lot last night and had certainly his best game as a Cowboy. And when you allow an average of 1.1 yards per carry for your opponent, after giving up records of futility the previous 2 weeks, that was a remarkable improvement, in my opinion.
And what I don't want to hear people say is, it's just the Giants. I don't want to hear that, because they've done a lot of emphasis and work in the offseason to improve their offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a strong offensive line for Mozzie to have showed up against. According to PFF, he was your highest graded Cowboy in Week 4 against the Giants. Again, this is with a minimum of 25 snaps. He had a grade of 88.4. Dak Prescott in second, 83. And then CeeDee Lamb, 79.6. Demo next, 77.7. Tyler Smith, 77.4. So for Mozzie to kind of work his way literally from the bottom of these lists all the way to the top, because what was it? 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the defensive tackle position was graded so low, but yet he was still at the top of that list. And, the grades were in the 30s. I'm so proud of his improvement. I don't care who the opponent is. he is doing his job. He's taking the feedback. He's applying it. And to your point, Aisha, that coaching with Zanina and Alice are working. I mean, truly. You can see the confidence growing for him week by week. So I'm excited for Mozzie and what's to come for him there. So he was somebody I definitely wanted to talk about. But you know what's so interesting, ladies, is I think everybody had kind of scoffed at the Giants this season. You would talk about, hey, of course the Eagles are going to be a big matchup, and you have the revenge games with Dan Quinn being in Washington, and then you would talk about the Giants, and people would kind of scoff and be like, oh, and the Giants, easy win. And where this Cowboys team is, it wasn't a very easy win. It was a push and pull and all over the place. Brandon Aubrey even giving you a little heart attack there at the end, but Daniel Jones had very good command of his offense. Aisha, what did you notice from Daniel Jones in this game compared to maybe years past of how he's playing right now?
Just the lack of panic. And granted, he had a lot of time back there.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that later.
Talk about it.
But
talk about it.
No, I mean, he wasn't really getting rushed like that. And then here's the thing is again, this is something that I was kind of worried about even coming into this season. Where's your pass rush going to come from? Outside of Micah and Demarcus Lawrence. And obviously Oso Odigizua can do some pass rush things in the interior, but losing Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong was a big deal. I think that we kind of just were like, okay, we can move on or whatever, but it was a big deal. Marshawn Nealon is finding his way, but his bread is buttered in run stopping. That's really where it's at for him, and he's developing pass rush ability, and we're seeing him. You saw him go to his first tackle for loss yesterday. And so it's I was looking at where's the rest of the pass rush going to come from. And, when you give a guy that much time, and he also has some weapons. We talked about Wan'Dale Robinson, yes. Why did I call him Moore?
Because it feels like
DJ
a Monday.
Moore so bad.
It feels like a Monday, and it's a Friday.
But, Wan'Dale Robinson, some of the stuff they did with him out the backfield and stuff like that, he's a quick outlet, and he can make things happen for you. Malik Neighbors, he's also, too, when you talk about Daniel Jones, this might be his first number one receiver that he's had in years because they paid Kenny Golladay all that money and nothing ever came from it. So this is one of the first real targets he's had in his career. So him building that connection with Neighbors, I believe, is another reason why we see him be a little bit more confident. They brought in new coaches. They're doing some things that make him comfortable. That's why I said last week, one thing about them, that the Giants that I will respect, is that they don't care. They are this is who we are. They're supporting Daniel Jones. Yeah. This is what we're going to run out there, and this is how we're going to play football. And I think that does take some confidence. But, I mean, he's improved in certain areas. I do think his patience is improved. The deep ball is still out of pocket. But he's playing within himself as far as playing and orchestrating this offense, because I thought they were able to move the ball at times. I mean, they controlled time of possession.
Completely.
They completely controlled. They just couldn't cap off, their drives. But he really dictated pace for this game with the pace they could dictate, with how he commanded the offense. How did you feel about Daniel Jones? Did he look different to you, feel different to you?
Yeah, and I think it goes to Malik Neighbors because, as you said, when you can do when Neighbors can be actually a deep threat, then you've got Wan'Dale underneath.
Yes, ma'am.
Then that made such a difference. So.
We just had a conversation pre-show about how Post Malone kept calling Christy ma'am. And
it keeps slipping.
This one keeps going again.
Yeah,
that was two ma'ams
so Post Malone's on the sideline, right? And
Christy's so cool.
Pre-game.
I know, she's all casual. I talked to Posty in pre-game.
Yeah, so Posty and I. So I went up to Posty and I said, Posty, I worked with your dad, Rich, for years. And he says, oh, well, I'm sorry you had to put up with him that long. But anyway, he joined us on our Cowboys Radio pregame show. And, of course, he was wearing the Brandon Aubrey number 17 jersey. And so y'all might have seen highlights or they showed on TV where Brandon Aubrey autographed the jersey for for Posty. So anyway, but I finished the interview, and then one of the Bront from Cowboys PR comes up to me and says, "You have a Sharpie, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm digging in my bag, and I hand him the Sharpie. Well, it was to give to Brandon to sign Post Malone's jersey.
That's cool.
And so then Brian Anger, the punter, brings the pen over to me, and he's like, "You might want to frame this. It was touched by both Post Malone and Brandon Aubrey." So
Wait.
That's awesome.
So that video where Dez is like cussing from back in the day, and he's like,
Yeah.
that's the rich. Like, who's his dad? Who's Posty's dad? His dad used to work for the team?
Yeah, he worked at the stadium. Yeah. He was one of the managers of concessions, so he was with Legends Hospitality for years. And I'll tell on myself. I see Rich. I would see Rich all the time, and even on game day, he would come out and bring some. Yeah, different Rich.
I had the wrong one.
That's a very different Rich.
But our show was like,
you're talking about Rich from PR.
Yeah, I was like, is that his dad?
So anyway. We're doing a thing for the fan, and Rich had brought out some of the stuff from Legends Hospitality, and they're like, that's Post Malone's dad. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, I had never heard. And I was very early in his career, and I didn't know who Post Malone was. But now it's like, but he is the most polite. And just so you know, he was raised in Grapevine, which is just north of DFW Airport. So it's between where we are here in the Star in Frisco and the AT&T Stadium in Arlington. And so there's a great downtown, a lot of like cafes and nice places. And when he was a teenager, I mean, he was still in high school.
Yeah,
he was doing country music then. It'd just be him on his guitar singing.
Oh, he just had a country album come out.
Before he became
he
Post
just had
Malone.
a country album come out. And he did a single with Taylor Swift on the Tortured Poets
and
called Fortnite.
Did they win an award for that?
They did,
Oh,
and Taylor Swift talked about him also calling her ma'am nonstop. So you and Taylor Swift have something in common.
We're so identical
How's that make
in
you
so
feel?
many ways.
I'm screaming.
All right, guys.
Scary.
Let's take our final break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this defensive talk. We're going to talk some offense. And, you're just talking about Brandon Aubrey. We're going to touch base on that as well. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk. Stick with us. We're presented by Jigsaw. We'll be right back.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
cancer awareness with the 2024 Crucial Catch Collection. The NFL donates 100% of its proceeds from Crucial Catch merchandise to the American Cancer Society to provide cancer screenings and resources to underserved communities. Visit a pro shop near you or log on to shop.dallascowboys.com, a Fanatics experience, and join the fight against cancer. Love that. Gonna have to go to the pro shop, pick some stuff up. All right, ladies, let's get back to our defensive talk, and let's just go back to the last minute of this game, shall we? The decision was made to let Brandon Aubrey go for the field goal, which I just had a feeling with the hype before the game and the little story beforehand and everyone making this big deal of how perfect his record was. He misses, and that's okay. He's human. I don't really think it's going to bother him or matter. Shake it off. Okay, and then the game is officially done because an unspoken, unsung hero in Amani Oruwariye. Did I say it? Oruwariye decides, hey, I'm going to end this game. I'm going to get elevated from practice squad. I'm going to end this game, and we're going to go home. Christy, you were talking about just kind of the events that unfolded for him that morning.
Sure.
How did things go down?
Well, the Cowboys go ahead and travel practice squad players, and good thing they did.
Yes.
So they you can elevate up to 2 players from a practice squad each week. And so Carl Lawson at defensive end was elevated for the second time, but this was the first time that I'm going to call him by his nickname, AO.
I like that so much better.
Amani Oruwariye.
Ayo.
So he well, what we need to do is to get the Freddie Mercury Queen drop. Ayo.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So
well, let's see
there
if
we
he
go.
has more interceptions.
Hey, that would be a great drop to use for Cowboys radio in the game. So anyway, I went up to AO found out about 10 hours before kickoff that he was elevated. He found out that morning, 10 hours before warm-ups. I went up to Will McClay on the sideline before the game to ask about Oruwariye, and I butchered it, and so did Will, and he says, just call him AO. That's what we call him, AO, because we can't pronounce it either. So, but I asked, did he play inside Detroit at all, or was he just an outside corner? He says he's an outside guy. But here's the thing with the practice squad, when they expanded it back in 2020 for COVID, they allowed veterans to be signed. And Oruwariye is a new name for Cowboy fans, but the guy played 4 years in Detroit, and one of those years had 6 picks. And that was just 3 years ago, and that was Trayvon Diggs when he led the league with 11 interceptions, and J.C. Jackson had 8 for the Patriots, and third on that list was A.O. So he had, over 36 games of experience. So he didn't start the game. Andrew Booth started the game. It did not go well in the first half for Andrew. Yeah. And so just before they're coming out for the second half, A.O. was told that, oh, by the way, you're out there
time to shine
for Andrew in the second half. And did he allow a few catches? Yes. Did he make a couple good plays? Yes. And did he make the key play when it mattered the most?
A.O., yes.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about them, they were going at those guys rightfully
They're doing it on purpose.
It made sense. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Brian Dable said, hey, Andrew Booth.
Yeah.
Hi,
They
see you.
moved Malik Neighbors all over that formation and tried to find favorable matchups. So to be expected, it's kind of easy to shine the light on those guys because they're going at those guys. But to your point about them, he and Booth having their fair share of issues somewhere in that game, were the cleats an issue, Christy? Was the field wet?
There were a few players. Yeah, like Jake Ferguson lost his feet one time.
Yeah,
who was the other one that lost his feet? There were a couple of times, but they didn't change cleats or anything.
Okay.
And it didn't seem like it was that moist.
Yeah.
But
okay, I just
interesting.
I mean,
It looked slick on the broadcast view. It looked slick. Even for the Giants, there was a couple times where there were some runs that clearly would have been made. But anyways, let's move on to the offense real quick. Ladies, offensive line struggles continue to kind of be an issue. Where would you say that's at now going off of what you've seen the past 4 weeks now, let's make it short and sweet because I want to get your game MVP too.
Work in progress.
Love that.
And you have to clean up the penalties. They cannot stand.
Beep.
Penalties weren't good.
That was a cleanup crew.
Yeah, penalties weren't good. I thought that Terrence Steele played probably his best game of the season to start. They found some things in the run game with tosses, screens, some slip screens with the tight ends, stuff like that. And it looks like they are going to do this. And they had success with their combo and duo blocks. They haven't had that really. So I thought they did find some things. Yeah, they did find some things, and in pass pro as well. I thought this offensive line held up pretty well.
And do you know who they had dinner with on Wednesday night at the team hotel before the game?
Post Malone.
No, much better than Post Malone, the guy who is the best dancer when it comes to EDM. Former Cowboys Pro Bowl left tackle Tyron Smith, who's now a member of the New York Jets. He was waiting at the team hotel in suburban New Jersey when the team pulled up.
She's gonna cry.
And had dinner with the offensive line.
He missed him,
man. Another quick question for you guys: if you had to grade the Mike McCarthy's play calling from the last 4 weeks, letter grade, where are you putting it right now?
You know, yesterday it was such fits and starts and all those penalties that I still don't think that we have a real flow.
Okay.
Yes, that's so it's still.
So what's your grade?
Well, work in progress to be determined. Incomplete.
Say I gave you this and this is the play calling. What sticker are you putting on it? All right, Aisha.
Yeah, I would give it a C- because
you want to see more.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just
gotcha.
Yes, I want to see more, but I just think I really would love for him to get a better grasp on what his personnel does well. And that's all I have to say.
Mic drop. Love that. All right, game management, allowing Brandon Aubrey to go for the field goal at the end of the game. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
I agreed with it, but I thought they should have took a timeout.
Okay.
I thought the process was a little rushed.
Yeah.
And so even when he missed, it was so quick. I was like,
yeah.
Does that make sense? I thought that you could have used a timeout in that instance. Okay. I thought just to settle them in and everything, it did feel a little, and I don't know how you felt on the sideline, but it felt rushed on the broadcast. It felt like, get out there, go.
The whole last 3 minutes of that game felt that way because you finally had a game flow because you weren't being stopped by penalties every 5 seconds. I'm going to say I disagree with it. I'm going to say in that instance, because things were so rushed, the way the game was being called, look, man, I get you have the kicker, that changes how you game plan and how you go for these things. But again, with that many penalties in this game, with it being as close as it is, to me, you punt the ball. I get it. Micah and Tank were out at that point. I get it. I just don't agree with it. But we're going to leave it at that because we have game MVPs and we have 2 minutes left. All right, ladies, who are can only pick one game MVPs for this week for matchup against the Giants?
I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. We haven't talked about him this whole time, but man, if he doesn't play as clean as he does and do some of the things that he does, those balls he plays have to be almost perfect. So I'm going to go with him as my game MVP.
Love it. Christy?
AO.
Really?
Just because he didn't even know that he was going to play when he woke up that morning and made the play to close it out. The other one I was thinking is probably the person you're going to name.
Who is it? Yeah, I was about to say.
I was going to say CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mozzie Smith.
I was going to say Overshown.
I thought,
Overshown was great too.
Man, I mean, I was going to say CeeDee Lamb because
we cheated.
Well, Mozzie, obviously.
I assumed you guys would say Mozzie, so
to me he was the obvious answer.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But I'm going to pick CeeDee Lamb only because the scrutiny he got from the Sunday before of, look at him having an attitude on the sideline, and he came back with humility to say, hey, I need to be better than that. I will be.
And he was selfish.
And he was so humbled by that experience. He came out and he put his money where his mouth is. He had that kind of game. Your chemistry with your wide receiver one or QB1 were worth every million with that first half play. So for me, CeeDee Lamb, Appreciate ya. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Ladies, we are out of time. We actually went a little overtime today, but the Cowboys did not go to overtime. They are 2-2 of the season. Heading into mini bye. The Cowboys play again next Sunday. But we will be back here next Monday. Your normal crew, us three, and our Nicole will be back. So we will see you guys then. Have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Sunday off. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!